Sean Lafferty, meteorologist Tom Atkins, and Jay Pushkar with sports. You're watching Fox 66 News first at 10.
The Catholic Diocese of Erie paying $2 million in a settlement after a sexual abuse claim that spans 8 years. Good evening. Sean Lafferty has the night off. Catholic Diocese of Erie has reached a $2 million settlement with a victim who was sexually abused by Father David Poulsen. Boston attorney Mitchell Garabedian appearing via Skype at a news conference. Samir Nefsi has the story.
The Catholic Diocese of Erie is paying $2 million to a victim in his 20s after coming forward with claims of sexual abuse at the hands of Father David Poulsen. The victim alleging the abuse took place over the course of 8 years, from 2002 through 2010. Boston attorney Mitchell Garabedian saying Bishop Donald Troutman allowed Father Poulsen to continue to interact with the victim while fully knowing his past record as a pedophile.
According to the documents produced dated 2010, Bishop Troutman knew and conversed about Father Poulsen being a sexual abuser.
Garabedian claiming that current Bishop Lawrence Persico also knew about the alleged abuse but continued to keep Father Poulsen's history out of the public. The abuse allegedly occurred at St. Michael's, St. Anthony's in Cambridge Springs, and at a cabin. During the press conference, Garabedian saying ultimately this is the diocese's fault, saying, quote, this is their responsibility. Garabedian is now calling for the statute of limitations on sexual abuse cases to be lifted.
There are no statute of limitations in murder cases, and there should be none in sexual abuse cases.
Former priest James Faluzak was also in attendance discussing the abuse he has suffered. When asking Faluzak what he believes the diocese has learned over the course of several sexual abuse claims, he had this to say.
I can't see any evidence of anything that they've learned. They've learned how to pay $4 million to an attorney to conduct an investigation that they should have been on top of from the beginning.
Samir Nefsi, Fox 66 News.
In the wake of the Diocese of Erie reaching that $2 million settlement, Bishop Lawrence Persico is pushing back against some of the allegations made by that attorney during that news conference today. Tara Braddock joins us now in the control room with more on that reaction. Tara.
Joe, Bishop Persico says that the settlement agreement is fine, but he thinks Garabedian doesn't have all his facts straight.
Bishop Lawrence Persico speaking out against allegations made by sexual abuse attorney Mitchell Garabedian.
He made sweeping allegations that were not factually backed up.
Garabedian claimed that Bishop Persico and Bishop Donald Troutman knew about former priest David Poulsen's alleged abuse, but continued to keep Poulsen's history out of the public. Bishop Persico refuting those claims, saying that the Diocese of Erie had no knowledge of the case involving John Doe until January 26, 2018.
I think if you go to our press release as well as the copy of the settlement agreement, which he signed off on, there's a factual outline of what transpired for that particular settlement.
Bishop Persico adding that he doesn't know where Garabedian got the idea that he hasn't done anything for sexually abused victims.
You check with media, you go on our website, it's all there to be seen. We've been releasing statements since April of 2018, and it's all there.
As far as more communication with Garabedian, Bishop Persico says he doesn't think that the Boston attorney is interested in clearing up anything with the Diocese of Erie.
And you can see the full statement from the Diocese of Erie regarding these allegations on our website at yourerie.com. Jill.
Okay, Tara, thank you. The Diocese of Erie settlement is also bringing up questions about statute of limitations for sexual abuse in the Commonwealth. Currently, victims of child sex abuse can come forward with a criminal allegation until they are 50 years of age. Last year, a bill that would open a 2-year window for victims over 50 to sue the Catholic Church for their abuse passed in the Pennsylvania House but stalled late in the year in the Senate. There has been no public movement or talk of the bill in the Senate since today. State Senator Dan Laughlin shared his thoughts on the fight to change the age limit.
Well, I would like to get this resolved and move on. I think most people involved would like that.
And again, if you'd like to see those statements, you can go to yourerie.com to see a complete list. And let's turn to weather now. Meteorologist Tom Atkins has your Fox First forecast. Tom, another chilly night out there.
Yeah, one more cold night, Jill, and, clear skies will do that to you. Calm winds, as you can see on the flag here on our channel lock cam at Conneaut Lake. So starlit skies for now, the moon up after midnight, the waning moon. But right now at Erie Airport, 30 degrees, no wind. and a strong barometer. So it's going to be a dry night, another dry day tomorrow. Temperatures dipping into the 20s along the lakeshore, teens inland by morning, and then a nice recovery tomorrow. It'll still be cool by the lake, but warming into the 50s inland for tomorrow with plenty of sunshine for everyone. We'll check the rest of your forecast later in the show. Jill.
Thank you, Tom. Fire consumes a business, making it a total loss. Firefighters responding to Adams Automotive on State Highway 173 in Cochraton. They arrived at this fully involved fire. Firefighters on scene say it started with some boxes being burnt, which then spread to the tires, then spread to a propane tank. A building then caught on fire as well, as you can see. One firefighter from an assisting company injured his leg and was taken to the hospital. A dog was lost in the fire as well. No other injuries, though, were reported, but as we said, the building is a total loss. State officials have ordered the removal of all children remaining in the oldest reform school in the country. The Department of Human Services said the emergency removal ordered Monday means all children residing at Glen Mills School in Delaware County will be relocated as soon as this can be safely accomplished. The removal comes on the heels of several reports in which students were allegedly abused during their time at the school. 9 boys from Erie County were removed from Glen Mills earlier this month. No word on whether or not the school will reopen. Erie police have charged 2 suspects in the shooting and robbery that took place on Sunday. According to the Erie Times News, 21-year-old Jabril Hook and 31-year-old Reuben Talley have both been charged. Police were called to the 2100 block of Wallace just before 10 Sunday night after reports of multiple gunshots and a possible home invasion. Police found numerous shell casings at the scene. No one was injured. The investigation is ongoing with these arrests. Hooks is now facing charges of possession with intent to deliver. Talley is charged with aggravated assault and discharging a firearm. There may be progress in the cleanup of a Waterford Township property. This is the home of Warren Ferraro on Route 19. An Erie County judge gave the mechanic 20 days to get the place cleaned up, or he would face fines for each day after the deadline. It appears he's made some progress when we checked today. Ferraro, of course, is the same businessman who had those junk cars piled up at West 12th and Peach Street until he lost that property. Erie County residents have mixed feelings when it comes to the president's performance. This according to the latest poll released by Mercyhurst University. Kristen Nielsen explains.
A new poll completed by the Center for Applied Politics at Mercyhurst University suggests opinions on how President Trump handles a range of topics are changing. The poll was completed by students.
I think it's important to be involved in the government, whether it's at your local, community level, or if you want to be super involved and pay attention to the national level. At some level, it's important because it does affect your day-to-day life.
First, the good news for the administration.
Voters' perception of the national economy and our local economy are very positive. In fact, they're more positive than we've seen at any point since Donald Trump was elected.
Morris tells us that one of the areas in which President Trump's approval ratings have taken a hit are the ways in which he handles taxes.
Unfortunately, his performance, at least in the eyes of Erie County voters on this issue, has not been good. What we've seen is an increasingly large number of people disapproving of his performance when it comes to handling the issue of taxes.
Another issue Erie County voters aren't happy with is infrastructure. The president's approval on that issue has fallen from 45% in 2017 down to just 30% in 2019.
And like so many towns that have seen manufacturing jobs leave, infrastructure, investments in infrastructure would do a lot to help our regional economy.
The opinions of voters in one county may or may not reflect the climate of voter attitudes nationally, but just getting people involved in thinking about these issues is valuable, Denise tells us.
You feel like you're actually doing something and that you're making a difference, kind of, because these people care and you care.
Kristen Nielsen, Fox 66 News.
Mill Creek School District has reached a deal with its teachers on a contract extension. The current agreement between the district and the Mill Creek Education Association was set to expire June 30th. The extension will now keep the labor piece until June 2021. It's already been unanimously approved by the school board. District officials confirm the deal includes an annual 2.75% raise. In exchange, MEA members have agreed to increase the cost of health care benefits. New legislation to raise the base pay for public school teachers. Right now, the minimum salary for teachers in Pennsylvania is $18,500. That was set more than 30 years ago. Governor Wolf wants that bumped up to $45,000 a year. Today, a House Republican and Senate Democrats introduced bills that could make that happen with a way to fund the plan.
Teachers are also dealing with crowded classrooms and limited resources in many cases. Yet we expect them to educate our children to the best of their abilities. Don't our teachers deserve more?
Critics say bumping up the base pay may cause other teachers to demand more money, which would be unsustainable. Sidewalks in Fairview Township will soon be getting major improvements thanks to a $300,000 grant from the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth Financing Authority awarded the Multimodal Transportation Funding Grant to Fairview Township. Township will use the funding to improve sidewalks along Route 98. The project includes sidewalks and curb ramps from Canal Road to south of Toby Court, from Canal Road to Hemlock Court, and from Toby Court to Chestnut Street.
I think it's nice that this will help with public safety. You know, you have kids walking on the roads and different things, and this will help get them up on the sidewalks. So, you know, who knows? Hopefully, we'll have prevented a tragedy.
A flashing beacon pedestrian crossing system will also be installed at the Canal Road and Route 98 intersection.
Prosecutors suddenly dropped charges against actor Jussie Smollett. I'm Matt Finn in the Chicago courthouse. More details on this shocking development.
Plus on alert, first responders across the Commonwealth practicing to keep you safe. And best friends, a Chihuahua and Tabby Cat become an inseparable pair. We'll have that story coming up. We'll be right back.
See news happening? Shoot it. Then send it to us via Facebook or the Your Erie To Go app on your smartphone. See it. Shoot it. Send it.
Hi, I'm Joe Flynn. For a great deal on tires, just drive in any Flynn's Tire and Auto Service. Or you can just call us.
From March 20th to April 18th, get a $70 reward card after submission with the purchase of 4 new select Michelin tires at Flynn's Tire and Auto Service.
For dependable tires and expert service, go to Flynn's Tire and Auto Service.
Visit our website at flynnstire.com or stop by any Flynn's Tire location today.
At Dunham Finney Center.
Now is the time to discover the care at the St. Mary's Home of Erie open houses. Saturday, April 6th from noon to 3 p.m. at St. Mary's at Asbury Ridge. And Saturday, April 13th from noon to 3 p.m. at St. Mary's East. Campus-wide tours include rehabilitation, residential living, adult day services, Alzheimer's, and nursing care. St. Mary's Home of Erie, where loving to care is a way of life.
Hey everyone, I just bought a new CUV that's incredible in the snow. The Eclipse Cross 4x4. Isn't it gorgeous? The Eclipse is great on gas. You can switch from four-wheel to front wheel just by pushing a button.
Thanks for sharing, Allie. For a limited time, you can get $1,000 cash back and 0% financing on an all-wheel drive Eclipse Cross at Interstate Mitsubishi, 1/2 mile south of the Mill Creek Mall on Route 99.
News is brought to you by Enormous Mobile Specialties.
I have a problem with my car. Can you fix my cruise control?
Backup camera?
Speedometer?
High beams?
Gas gauge? My wipers only have 2 speeds, off and super fast.
My remote start doesn't work.
If it's electric, we can fix it.
For all your car's electrical needs, Enormous Mobile Specialties, your electrical system experts.
Enjoy your ride.
This is Fox 66 News. First at 10.
Coming up, an opening prayer quickly turns controversial just moments before the swearing in of new members. That is just ahead on Fox 66 News. In an unexpected reversal of fortune, former Empire actor Jussie Smollett said Tuesday that charges alleging he lied to police about a racist and homophobic attack had been dropped. Fox News correspondent Matt Finn reports.
In a surprise turn of events, prosecutors in Chicago have dropped all charges against Empire actor Jussie Smollett. The actor had been accused of staging a fake hate crime against himself, and he says he still stands by his story.
I've been truthful and consistent on every single level since day one. I would not be my mother's son.
if I was capable of one drop of what I've been accused of.
After a month-long investigation into the alleged attack, Empire producers decided to remove Smollett from the final 2 episodes of the current season. The actor told police in January he was attacked by 2 men while walking home late at night. His report of the alleged hate crime included a chemical substance poured on him and a rope looped around his neck.
I have no idea what occurred in this case and why it occurred. I can just say that things seem to spiral somewhat out of control. We've gotten to a result that is the right result.
Mr. Smollett is still saying that he is innocent, still running down the Chicago Police Department. How dare him?
2 brothers were arrested in February for allegedly being linked to the hate crime, but they too were released without charges. The decision takes some of the legal pressure off Smollett, but it leaves open the question of his guilt or innocence. Legal experts, mostly surprised by the reversal of fortune, say a lack of evidence may have been a factor.
It is either the result of extraordinary lawyering on the part of his lawyers or a realization by the government of some defect in its evidence.
And actor Jussie Smollett is forfeiting his $10,000 bond that he paid to initially get out of jail. In Chicago, Matt Finn, Fox News.
As of midnight last night, bump stocks are no longer legal in the United States. The ban comes as the devices, which essentially turn legal semi-automatic weapons into machine guns, came under scrutiny when the Las Vegas shooter used one in the massacre, killing 58 people. Americans who previously purchased one will soon have to either turn it in or destroy it. The new ban makes the possession of a bump stock a felony, subject up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. An opening prayer before the House session has sparked a lot of controversy at the state capitol, several lawmakers calling it inappropriate and divisive. It took place moments before the swearing-in of the state's first female Muslim lawmaker. Matt Heckel reports.
Yeah, well, the opening prayer typically inclusive and non-controversial. That was not the case yesterday. Today, several Democratic lawmakers saying they're angry by what they saw and heard. On Monday, Representative Movita Johnson-Harrell was sworn in as Pennsylvania's first female Muslim lawmaker.
We had Muslims and Christians and Jews who sat there to support me as I was being sworn in. It was absolutely amazing.
God forgive us. Jesus, we've lost sight of you.
Before the swearing in, though, a controversial prayer by freshman Representative Stephanie Borowitz, mentioning several times the name of Jesus as well as Israel and President Trump.
Lord, thank you that he stands beside Israel unequivocally, Lord.
House Speaker Mike Turzai even seemingly reaching out to cut the representative off as she wrapped up.
At the name of Jesus, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess, Jesus, that you are Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
I don't think it was as much a prayer as it was a political statement, and I thought it was blatantly Islamophobic, xenophobic, and discriminatory.
Representative Borowitz, as well as Representative Daryl Metcalf, reportedly walking out before Representative Johnson-Harrell's swearing in.
Which is insulting.
As a Christian, I'm offended that a new Muslim member would come in and say that a Christian woman is an example of Islamophobia when she's praying in the name of Jesus.
Representative Metcalf says his being off the floor during the swearing in was not a protest, but he is upset by Representative Johnson-Harrell's reaction.
I believe that we should censure the newest member.
Governor Tom Wolf met with the newly sworn in representative on Tuesday, saying he apologized.
I was horrified. I mean, I grew up in Pennsylvania. This is not who we are as Pennsylvanians.
In Harrisburg, Matt Heckel, Fox 66 News.
Back here in Erie, another clear, calm, and cold night, but things will start to warm up tomorrow. We'll check it all out next. The snow is coming down, and it is blowing across us here.
Get the latest closings, cancellations, and delays on Jet 24, Fox 66, YourErie.com, and Your Erie to Go. Brought to you by the Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, where the learning never stops.
At Bonnell's, we truly believe that you deserve the very best. That's our commitment to you every day in everything that we do.
At Bonnell's Auto Glass, you'll always get our very best. From free estimates to our highly trained and certified technicians to on-site chip repair to auto glass replacement and professional tinting. Make Bonnell's your first call on all your auto glass needs.
You deserve the very best. Bonnell's Auto Group.
LeafGuard of Lake Erie has been serving customers in Erie, Crawford, Mercer, Venango, and Warren counties for over 20 years. Take a look at the seamless LeafGuard gutter system. The water goes in, the leaves and other debris stay out. And only with LeafGuard gutters do you get a lifetime no-clog guarantee. LeafGuard of Lake Erie also specializes in standard gutters, gutter covers, soffit, fascia, and heated gutter systems. Call 898-8517 or visit us at leafguardoflakeerie.com.
Weather is brought to you by Superstore Joe at Auto Express Kia.
Change can be a good thing.
In the past 4 years, Auto Express Kia has helped over 5,000 people make the change.
I used to have a Ford.
I used to drive a Nissan.
A Jeep. I have a Honda. Now I drive a Kia. Now I drive a Kia.
A Kia.
I have a Kia.
Lease an all-wheel drive Kia Sportage for only $189 a month. That's $189 a month.
I want to see ya in a Kia.
From your weather authority, here's meteorologist Tom Atkins.
And we take you out to Girard. Very pretty shot West Main Street here. Bob Ferrando, Ford World Cam. Lots of cars lining up in front of the Treehouse Tavern there as you look up to Lake Street, the Country Fair, on a calm, crisp, and cool night. Here's the picture from Chris Gaggs from Sunset last night. And again, still a bunch of ice out there. And we give you the latest satellite picture, and you can see that right here up towards Northeast where she is standing. Still only 25% coverage for today. We're showing you the woodpeckers as well, a sign of spring and the daffodils. But the snowdrops, a very pretty flower, starting to show up, even in my backyard. So although the lake is still cool, there's more water than ice, and you just got to check out where you are as to what you're going to see here. Now, as you look on Storm Tracker, nothing to worry about right now. Our current temperatures are generally from 30 along the lake shore to the 20s inland and the mountains. Pick your favorite city, find a number, and what you got going there is your typical warmer by the lake at night and cooler inland. Now, as we through tomorrow, that situation will reverse. Of course, the lake will be the cooler place, but getting into the 40s. And as we go inland, we're talking about temperatures getting up into the 50s. So as you look at the big map here, you can see that high pressure is still in control of the area. So that means we stay dry tonight, we stay dry tomorrow, and as these winds shift around to the south, basically what you're going to get is that start of a warm-up. Now there's another system back here, and eventually on Thursday we will get some showers, but temperatures will be milder even with the rainfall as we go through Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And you can see the temperature pattern. First of all, you can see the moisture. The lacking moisture with the high, this system will eventually get us wet later on Thursday, and you can almost kind of see this cool air shuffle off to the northeast, and these warmer temperatures come in from the south and west. So let's take a look at your satellite picture. And again, high pressure, dry weather tonight, tomorrow night, and the first half of Thursday. And as we give you little maps in motion here, you're going to see this high drift to the east. The streamers come up for tomorrow, warmer weather tomorrow, lots of sunshine, clear, not as cold tomorrow night. And then by Thursday, you've got some showers coming into the area with this cold front. And this cold front will go back and forth across the area, but temperatures remaining mild, even though the weather continues to be unsettled as we go on into the upcoming weekend. So let me get you ahead here right to the 7-day forecast, give you the latest that we can find here. And again, what you got is a warm-up coming up, kids. And despite the icons here, we've had some troubles with the graphics, but this is what we've got for you here. We've got a 57 on Thursday with afternoon showers. Friday, showers off and on, and 52. Saturday, some rain and 60. Then it drops on Sunday, goes right back up with some sunshine Monday and Tuesday. That is it for weather for now. Check out our Skycams at YourErie.com, and we go back to the desk with Jill and Jay.
Thank you, Tom. Jay is here now with the first look at your sports. Mercyhurst just hours away from tip-off. It's exciting.
We went from days to now just hours for Mercyhurst as they play in their first ever Elite 8 round. But we'll also explain why they were doing the two-step. All that coming up next.
Discover your spark. The Institute of Medical and Business Careers offers a rewarding career as a veterinary technician. Erie's only specialized associate degree veterinary technician program. With flexible schedules to fit everybody, financial aid for those who qualify, job placement, and affiliation agreements with veterinary hospitals, including Erie's own Anna Shelter. With IMBC, you will graduate job ready. Love your pets, love IMBC. Classes forming now. Discover your spark as an in-demand vet tech now. Go online to imbc.edu.
When you need a CAT scan, why wait? Tell your doctor you want imaging services at Tri-State Pain for the fastest CAT scan around. Imaging services at Tri-State Pain, just west of the Mill Creek Mall. Call 814-833-7246.
I'm Nina Ferraro.
I'm Ryan Tennant.
And I'm Jim Teed with Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield.
We are very proud to be the 2019 Bowl for Kids' Sake Platinum sponsor.
I'm happy to welcome Daniel Stone. Dan will be leading Big Brothers Big Sisters while I transition to part-time.
Join us Friday, May 3rd, 10th, and 17th at Green Garden Lane to support your local Big Brothers Big Sisters. 100% of all proceeds go directly to the program.
Support a program that works.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Lakefront Flooring.
Nobody likes hearing the word no. Nobody. Ever. Well, except customers at Lakefront Flooring. They love hearing no interest financing, no added freight charges, no sales tax with your installation, no membership to shop. And since this month we're offering free installation on carpet $4.99 or more, there's no reason not to. Lakefront Flooring. Trust the experience.
And now, Fox 66 Sports with Jay Pushkar.
Good evening. On the eve of the NCAA Division II men's basketball quarterfinals, the 8 teams had a chance to give back to the local community in Evansville, Indiana. Prior to their final practice session for the week and before their game, Mercier spent the morning at a local nursing home line dancing with patients and spreading plenty of joy. It's said to be the first time teams who reach the Elite Eight have a chance to have a moment with the community outreach program and bring some smiles to local community members. The cliche this time of year when teams make the national tournament is the phrase, they are going dancing. Well, the Lakers now have done that figuratively and now literally. And according to head coach Gary Manchel, the extra time he's spent with his players has been extremely special.
We have such a good group, and I've enjoyed coaching these guys, that it's just enjoyable to be around them, you know, for an extra 10 days, 7 days, and hopefully an extra game or 3 days or 4 days on the road. So in that way, they're just good guys. They're just good people. They're just high-character guys, and I've said that a couple of times. So for my enjoyment, is not that we're in the Elite Eight, is I get to keep coaching them.
Mercier's and Northwest Missouri State clash Wednesday afternoon. Game time is 3:30 Eastern. Not only are the Lakers facing the undefeated Bearcats, but they also won the national championship in 2017. On the college softball scoreboard from this afternoon, Gannon swept both ends of a doubleheader this afternoon. They defeated Notre Dame College of Ohio 3-0, and then 8-4. The Lady Knights improved to 11-6 on the season. Jill will have some of the action coming up in the next sports blog, but a very exciting moment. Mike Fenner will have more for Mercyhurst later on as well.
Yeah, he's in Evansville. It'll be great to see what's going on there tomorrow. Thank you,
Definitely.
Jay.
Sure.
We'll have a look at tonight's top stories coming up next in Your Erie in 66 seconds. Also coming up, cold feet.
Cautious consumers are getting more anxious. I'm Connell McShane with the Fox Business Network. There's more coming up.
Humes continues to be the Tri-State's Ram truck sales leader, and our higher volume always enables us to offer you the very best deal. Plus, equally as important, as you can count on our Humes 73-year history of proven quality service, including a complimentary service loaner. Save up to $10,000 and lease this 2019 Ram 1500 Crew Cab 4x4 Bighorn Edition for only $259 a month. Come see us today, only 9 miles south, Mill Creek Mall on Peach Street in Waterford.
Time marches on, but sometimes those old-fashioned cooking gadgets and cookware continue to be the best. You'll be surprised what you can still find at Kaplan's.
If you cook, stop and look, come on out to Kaplan's.
Buy
Buying a new or used Superior Toyota has never been more rewarding. That's because every new or pre-owned Toyota comes with the Superior Toyota Advantage. Rewards you earn in the form of dollars towards future service, body shop, or even vehicle purchases. And the advantages don't stop there. State inspections included, tire rotations, car washes, and so much more. There's a lot of advantages to shopping Superior Toyota, like the Superior Toyota Advantage.
This is a bag, but for Steve. This bag gives him food cred because now everyone knows that when they have that craving, well, they just need to follow Steve.
Get 2 double cheeseburgers for just $3 on the new $1, $2, $3 menu.
When I was in high school, I didn't even know what an engineer was. But I've always had a knack for taking things apart and putting them back together again. I was the first one in my family to go to college. So I really didn't have anyone to show me how an electrical engineer could help power entire communities. That's why it's so important for me to be that person for someone else.
This is Fox 66 News. First at 10.
Catholic Diocese of Erie paying $2 million in a settlement after a sexual abuse claim that spans 8 years. That headlines tonight's top stories in your Erie in 66 seconds. Boston attorney Mitchell Garabedian appearing via Skype at a news conference in Erie. Garabedian telling us that the settlement was negotiated outside of the courts with lawyers from the diocese. The victim in this case, known as John Doe, is now in his 20s. The alleged abuse occurred from 2002 to 2010 over the span of 8 years at the hands of former priest David Polson. Polson currently in prison for 2.5 to 14 years. In response, Bishop Lawrence Persico of the diocese releasing a statement saying, in part, this case was thoroughly investigated under Pennsylvania law by trained law enforcement prosecutors and agents who subpoenaed documents and testimony. It goes on to say, per the settlement signed by Mr. Garabedian, he was well aware that the Diocese of Erie had no knowledge of the case involving John Doe until January 26, 2018. Firefighters responding to Adams Automotive on State Highway 173 in Concorton today to a fully involved fire. Firefighters on the scene say it started with boxes being burnt, which then spread to tires and then spread to a propane tank. One firefighter from an assisting company injured his leg and was taken to the hospital. No other injuries were reported, but the building is a loss. That's a look at what's happening tonight in your Erie in 66 seconds. For updates, go to yourerie.com and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Elementary school students getting a look at the Erie Phil from the inside. It happened at Grover Cleveland Elementary School, where the Phil launched the virtual orchestra program. This morning, third grade students had the chance to put on a pair of goggles and get an interactive chance of seeing the orchestra.
We wanted this to be the first experience that a student gets, is rather than having to point to a violin on a piece of paper, we can point to the actual person playing a violin in our orchestra. And whether it's a spark from music or technology, we just want to make sure we're doing our part to help sort of change these students' lives as early as possible.
The event continues throughout the week, so every student can have a chance to experience the concert. Staff members at Presque Isle State Park are planning an event for those who want to know more about volunteering and protecting the natural resources. There are a number of programs at Presque Isle to preserve the ecology of the park from the forces of both man and nature. Some of those programs use volunteers to help keep Presque Isle as healthy as possible. In fact, it's one of the many ways people can volunteer to pitch in and help.
Those can include, being a pontoon boat driver, helping at the front desk of the Trek, and even, just helping with educational programming. Also, Environment Erie will be on hand to talk about volunteer opportunities with their Weed Warrior program.
The open house is planned for Presque Isle State Park. Will take place Thursday, April 4th from 6 p.m. to 8 in the evening. We're told there's no charge or registration required. Popular Erie convenience store will close for months, but the owners say that it will result in a better experience for customers. Country Fair store at West 38th and Peach is closing temporarily. The company decided to upgrade the gas holding tanks, and since the property has to be closed anyway, they will use the time to renovate the store as well. They say it's a lot of work, but the hope is to have the new store open for customers by July. And a new traffic light being installed at the newly constructed entrance of the VA hospital on East 38th Street, causing some slow traffic today. That traffic this afternoon between the stretch of East 38th between State Street and Old French Road. It's not clear, though, when those lights will fully be in operation. Shoppers seem to be getting cold feet as investors show their confidence. Fox Business Network's Connell McShane has these stories and more in tonight's Fox Means Business.
Shoppers are still cautious. Consumer confidence falling in March for the fourth time in 5 months. The survey from the Conference Board shows Americans are less optimistic about job prospects and business conditions in general. Investors showing confidence on Wall Street Tuesday. The Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ all finishing up. More signs the housing market is weakening. A new report from S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller says home prices rose 3.6% in January from the same time a year ago, and that is the slowest annual growth we've seen in more than 6 years. Meanwhile, the government says new home construction fell 8.7% in February. The building of single-family homes taking the biggest hit. They were down 17% for the month. Cold weather and rising costs to build are being blamed in part on the drop. That is business, and I'm Connell McShane.
Coming up on Fox 66 News, would you know what to do in a weather emergency? First responders are practicing so they can say yes. That's after a look at Wall Street.
I came home one night, saw the basement light on, and went up to the window, and my son was crushing and snorting pills. I felt like a failure, as many parents do. The problem was bigger than him, and he couldn't control it. He needed help, so I confronted it. I had to, or I was going to lose my kid. He's been clean now for 4 years.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
Book your next gathering here at Sparrow Pond. We have the perfect spaces for conventions, benefits, weddings, auctions, picnics, and more. Indoor hall rentals start at $250 and hold up to 300 people. Tables and chairs are provided. There's also a kitchen available, and caterers are welcome. All-day pavilion rentals are just $150 each. You can reserve up to 4, and each holds up to 65 people. Hosting a show or festival? Check us out and see what Sparrow Pond has to offer. Call 814-796-6777 for additional pricing and availability, or to find out more. 6 miles south of I-90 on Peach Street.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Tom Atkins, inviting Jet 24 and Fox 66 viewers to join me and my wife Jan on St. Lawrence Seaway Cruise, September the 12th to the 23rd. Discover Boston, including the JFK Museum, before boarding a Holland America Line ship for a 7-night cruise. We'll explore ports in Maine, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and Quebec, and then visit Montreal. Call Holiday Vacations at 1-800-826-2266.
News is brought to you by Bianchi Honda.
Hi, it's Jason Perico for Bianchi Honda. Trust. It's what we all think about before making a big purchase. Here at Bianchi Honda, we earn your trust while giving you a great deal. Lease the sporty and reliable 2019 HR-V LX all-wheel drive for only $198 per month. Bianchi Honda, trusted for over 50 years and still growing in our community today. That's why, around here, we Honda.
Is Fox 66 News. First at 10.
In a natural disaster, the faster the warning gets out, the more lives can be saved. Scott Brimner has more on how technology is now helping to make that happen.
This is WW3S at the Crawford County EOC testing.
This is the traditional method to respond to a natural disaster. Radios, sirens, command centers, commercial radio, and television alerts. They're all still used because they all still work and can quickly alert neighbors to evacuate or stay in their homes. This drill designed to prepare first responders for a real tornado if needed.
They're the ones that are the first line of defense. They're the first ones that will provide assistance to you in the event of emergency.
But these days, tried and true traditions are getting some high-tech help. It's called WEA, a wireless emergency alert. a system that one day could combine traditional responses with perhaps everything from text, social media, and push alerts. A new approach to the same goal, to get the word out to those affected as quickly as possible.
We're also relying a lot on the new system, which is the WIA system, which is the messaging, the wireless emergency alert that goes over our cell phones.
A modern approach to the age-old problem of preparing for the unexpected. Scott Bremner, Fox 66 News.
The National Weather Service is sponsoring emergency response drills across Pennsylvania this week. Tonight marks the final night that area overflow shelters will be open to area residents. The First Presbyterian Church of the Covenant in downtown Erie, along with more than 24 other church communities, have been providing people a place to stay as well as a hot meal, shower, and other essentials for 7 years now. Together, they've helped hundreds of people stay warm throughout the winter months.
Our Neighbor's Place has welcomed individuals as young as 17 and as old as 83, and everybody in between, males, females. And again, our goal is to always move people from homelessness to home, from hopeless to hope.
The shelter will close for the season at 7:30 tomorrow morning.
And back to weather we go, and we got trivia for you. Oddly enough, on yesterday's date, in one of those years, the first tornado forecast was issued, and it turned out to be right. Pick your decade, pick your year. We will have the answer, and our local forecast, which doesn't include tornadoes, next.
And that's me 30 days ago, before I switched to Spectrum. With Spectrum TV, I get tons of HD and thousands of titles free on demand. With satellite, I have to have special equipment to watch on demand, plus that dish on my roof.
Get Spectrum TV and Internet from $89.98 a month. Call 833-271-8998.
Spectrum Internet has speeds of 100 megabits, so I can surf, my wife can stream, and the kids can game. All at once. Our Internet can't keep up with all our devices, so I schedule all of our online time. I get every other Tuesday.
Get Spectrum TV and Internet from $89.98 a month.
Best of all, Spectrum bought out my old contract, making it easy to switch. Wait, what? Will they do that for me? Yeah, because I'm you, 30 days from now.
Get Spectrum TV and Internet from $89.98 a month. Plus, ask how you can save up to 40% on your wireless bill with Spectrum Mobile. Better services at a better price. Call 833-271-8998.
Empire is back.
There's things I've done in my life and I'm not proud of.
And this spring,
We did a lot of wrong, and it's come back to collect.
you will find out
Is there something that you're not telling me?
which lion will end up 6 feet under. An all-new Empire, Wednesday on Fox.
The Ford Escape is the car you want when you want an SUV. But also the SUV you want when you want a car.
Right now, get into a versatile built Ford Proud Escape for as little as $219 a month. Just $219 for a brand new Escape.
From your weather authority, here's meteorologist Tom Atkins.
We will take a nice south-looking view from Erie International Airport. This is the American Eagle Gate, waiting for the flight from Philly to come across and around the taxiway lights there, but just a little bit delayed right now. But tried to show it to you. It shows you it's a clear, calm, dry night out there, and we've been showing you these great pictures of the lake, and again looking at places like just off the peninsula and the bay there with some ice, and up towards northeast. So we've got a shot of one of the lighthouses there, and you can see ice and water. Thanks to Jenny for that one. Presque Isle in the background. Double shots for you. Chris Gaggs last night at sunset, water and ice, and then a flashback picture from a year ago today, March 26, 2018, and you can see a whole lot more ice with that colder winter last year than what we've had this year. In any event, it's still chilly there because of that cold lake water and the ice around it. 39 for our high. Normal is 48. Low is 22. Normal is 31. But Hardly any precip today. The sunset moved back to 7:39, and we increased the daylight by 4 minutes tomorrow. Should be another mostly sunny day, and after we get through this one more cold night, we start a slow warm-up tomorrow into Saturday. Now, that will be accompanied eventually by some showers Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but that's spring for you. And you can see the temperatures here, warmer at night, closer to the water. On the east side of Erie, Gregg has 30 degrees, Penn State Barron at 28, but you drop down to Joyce and North Meadville at 29, Rose and Espyville down to 23, same for Don and Linda in Chandler's Valley, and 25 from Kirk and Cindy in Pittsburgh. So it's another cold night with clear skies and calm winds, but we'll get clear skies again tomorrow. And you can see a lot from a temperature pattern here because, you know, weather generally moves from west to east. So you've got the coldest temperatures out here in the east, and you've got warmer readings even at night slated to move into the area. And the lows tomorrow night will be more like these numbers than the 20s and teens that we will see tonight. And this high pressure continues to keep us dry as it moves to the east. Again, clockwise flow, you get southerly winds. So tomorrow's probably the nicest day of the week as far as combining sunshine with somewhat milder temperatures. Now, along the immediate lakeshore, it's still going to be cool in the 40s. Rest of you should get into the 50s for tomorrow with mostly sunny skies. Tomorrow night is dry and warmer as stated. And then on Thursday, we start to see some showers try to get into the area later in the day. And this front's just going to flirt with us over the next couple of days. But generally speaking, the temperatures will be close to and sometimes a little bit above normal, but you almost have daily rain chances as you go into Saturday. So let's check your forecast. First of all, for tonight, starlit, cold, low temperatures in the low 20s along the lakeshore, dropping into the teens inland and mountains. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Again, probably still in the 40s along the lakeshore, but we were in the 30s today, so it is improvement there, and even warmer south and east of Interstate 90. Tomorrow night, not as cold and still clear, 28 to 35. On Thursday, showers in the afternoon. We'll go with 57. For Friday and Saturday, periods of showers, 52 and 60 respectively, and then a downtick. Sunday, colder, some rain or snow showers, 39, and then drier air, and a slow warming trend for Monday and Tuesday, 44 Monday, and near 50 again on Tuesday. And you can check out all the sky cams across the board on the weather page at YourErie.com. I found this out from our storm chaser, Steve Marshall, that on March 25th, on one of those years, the first time they actually forecasted a tornado, and it happened.
What else happened on March 25th?
Well, I had a birthday.
That's true, too.
But not on any of those
None of those dates. I'm going to go with 58.
Yeah, you're absolutely incorrect. I'm sorry, it's 48.
Oh.
You listened to the director.
Got all excited.
Yeah, I almost had you there. But yeah, it was a long time ago, and a great job to those guys in Oklahoma many, many years ago.
Nowhere near your birth year. Thank you, Tom.
That is very true.
Jay is up next. He's going to have action from around the area, including boys volleyball at McDowell.
For 50 years, Cracker Barrel has been making folks feel right at home with meals like home-style country fried steak, grandma's sampler, and our signature chicken and dumplings. So come on home to what you love. Come on home to Cracker Barrel.
One for trash bags? Come on.
Hefty, hefty, hefty!
Hey ladies, buy Hefty Ultra Strong at a low price.
Dada.
I wish.
Get Hefty Ultra Strong. Costs less than Glad Force Flex were sold head-to-head.
First of all, you're great.
And it's not you, it's me.
I'm just tired of being treated like a child. I just feel like you don't even know me anymore.
I need someone who gets me.
Understands my needs.
Who shares my values.
Connects with me. I'm good. Thanks.
You want more? Dr. Match from Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield can help. Take the quiz, find your match, and start a more fulfilling doctor-patient relationship.
I gotta get back to work.
If you want it fixed fast, take it to Fast Fix. Broken necklace, or watches, rings that don't fit, take them to Fast Fix. Fast Fix, most repairs done while you shop. Looking for a special gift? We have clocks, glass engraving, bridal gifts, and much more. Fast Fix Jewelry, over 30 years of unmatched service. If you want it fixed fast, take it to Fast Fix Jewelry in the Mill Creek Mall across from the food court.
Seriously injured in a car accident? Burger and Green can help.
For over 40 years, we've fought the billion-dollar insurance industry to get our clients the money they deserve. The insurance company is not your friend. They're not on your side. Do not give a statement. Do not sign away your rights.
Trust the name you know. Berger and Green, the injury lawyers. Call or text 1-800-999-2626. There is no fee unless you get money.
And now, Fox 66 Sports with Jay Pushkar.
Good evening. The Mercyhurst men's basketball team is just hours away from tipping off in their first ever Elite 8 contest. Fox 66's Mike Fenner is in Evansville, Indiana, and has more.
So it all comes down to this. With more than 200 Division II men's basketball programs competing around the country all winter long, the field is now trimmed down to just 8 remaining teams after a Division II men's basketball national championship. All 8 teams gathering here in Evansville, Indiana. The mantra all season long for the Mercyhurst men's basketball team has been, why not us? And that remains true, leading into its first ever Elite 8 matchup against the #1 team in the country.
They don't make mistakes. They really can guard the ball. They hold teams to one shot. They can really rebound, but they don't hurt themselves.
Breaking the school record in wins in a season, the Lakers have broken the glass ceiling when it comes to program standards, needing just 2 more wins to play for a national title.
We have good guys. We have high character guys. We seem to kind of like stay in the moment, and I think if we can just play the way we played all year, I'm not saying it's going to be good enough, but it'll be good enough for us.
And while most people don't expect them to get that far,
we know what we're capable of. You know, like you said, people kind of view us as underdogs, but time and time again, we've proven that we can compete with anybody, and I think we will again.
And others think there's massive pressure.
As a competitor, who wouldn't want to play the best? So I'm excited. I'm excited, and that's really all I can say. We don't back down, and we want to play the best. Like, we get the opportunity to play the #1 team in the country, so that's huge.
It will be no easy task to knock off unbeaten Northwest Missouri State. After all, they're 97-5 in their last 3 seasons, 35-0 this winter, outscoring opponents by more than 3 touchdowns.
All 5 guys shoot threes. All 5 guys score. All 5 guys can go off the dribble. So, you know, we got our hands full. Like, I think that is an advantage for us, but they do it as well.
Tip-off is set for 2:30 locally here on Wednesday afternoon, 3:30 Eastern, between Mercyhurst and Northwest Missouri State in the NCAA Division II men's basketball Elite 8. A spot of the Final Four on the line between the Lakers and the Bearcats. Reporting from Evansville, Indiana's Ford Center, I'm Mike Fenner.
Thanks a lot, Mike. And there you see it again. Mercyhurst going up against Northwest Missouri State. The Bearcats undefeated on the season, and in fact, they are the Division II national champions back in 2017. NBA time, Boston paying a visit to Cleveland. Al Horford simply hands it off to Marcus Smart. He knocks down the 3-pointer. Moments later, it's Terry Rozier making the tough step-back jumper. Celtics up by 9 at that point in the third. On to the fourth. Colin Sexton with the little floater in the lane. Then it's Larry Nance to Marquise Chris for the jam. Cavs down by 3, but Jason Tatum would lob it up to Horford for the dunk, and it's Boston picking up the road win, taking this one 116-106. High school boys volleyball from McDowell. Trojans taking on Fort LaBeouf. Both teams making their season debuts. McDowell won the first set by 2. Action from the second. Great save. And the set to Jack Manuel for the kill. Then after the terrific dig by McDowell, the Trojans capitalized with Logan Herring able to get the connection. McDowell took the second set 25-17. The Bison rallied to take the third set. However, McDowell wins it in 4 games, taking the fourth set 25-9. Colin Quattro led the way with 11 kills for McDowell. Nate Hayes with 32 assists. Men's lacrosse from Tulio Field. Number 13 Mercyhurst entertaining Alderson Brodus. Lightning fast start for the Lakers in the first half. Just a couple minutes in, Caleb Kuber strikes. Lakers on top 1-0, and the wave of offense just kept on coming. Minutes later, Nathan Grennan whistles one through for another marker. 2's at Mercyhurst. Then it's Benjamin Smith Wilcox camping out on the opposite side of the cage. He too would score. Number 13 Mercyhurst handles Alderson Brodus 21-6. Is your final. Finally, some college softball from Gannon. Lady Knights hosting Notre Dame of Ohio in a doubleheader. Action from game 1. No score in the bottom of the second. Autumn Smith hammers a stand-up double. 2 batters later, Taylor Wilp delivers the RBI double down the third base line. and that would score Smith to make it 1-0 Lady Knights. Gannon goes on to blank Notre Dame in Game 1 of the Twin Bill, 3-0. Lady Knights would then sweep the series this afternoon from them, taking it 8-4 in Game 2. A little chilly down there at Gannon, but can't beat the sunshine as some of the spring sports are trying to get back on the field.
Spring sports, they're used to it.
Oh, they are. They're tough.
Okay, thanks, Jay.
Sure.
Coming up, an inseparable duo. They're an unlikely pair of pets finding their forever home.
When you need physical therapy, go where you're comfortable.
Hi, my name is Greg Kuzma, owner of Ashley and Kuzma Physical Therapy. If your doctor orders PT, Pennsylvania law allows you to choose where you receive your care.
Choose Ashley and Kuzma.
If you haven't had Main Street Pizza yet, you're missing out on delicious fresh dough pizza, homemade ranch, and crispy jumbo award-winning wings with your choice of over 50 homemade flavors. That's not all. Meekers is home of its messy hot chick sandwich and Big Daddy sub made on a full loaf of Italian bread. At Meekers, you're welcome to dine in and enjoy your meal in our family-friendly environment. Meekers is located 10 minutes south of the Mill Creek Mall. Call to order today because Meekers wants you to eat my pie.
The savings are tremendous at McQuillan's this month. Buy a new 2019 Buick Encore with 17% off the MSRP, plus save an extra $2,000 if you drive a competitive make. That can be up to 24% off MSRP. And we're taking 20% off all our new 2018 Chevy Cruze and Malibus. There's 0% financing on all new 2019 Chevy Silverados and GMC Sierras. I know that's a lot of numbers, so come in and we'll go over it all with you at McQuillan, Chevy Buick, GMC, Route 20 in Girard.
I just want to make sure that I just do everything I can to just protect him and love him and just, just be the best mom I can be.
Yeah. And with your first, you want to know the doctor and you want to be comfortable with them.
Yeah. I don't want to feel like I'm at a baby factory.
Be like this. Like, hey.
The fastest growing labor and delivery program in the region is at Allegheny Health Network.
Are you being directed to a physical therapist you don't want to go to? Ashley and Kuzma Therapeutics want you to know you have the right to choose, with or without a doctor's order. Choose the best physical therapy center in Erie. Choose Ashley and Kuzma Therapeutics.
The labor and delivery unit at Maine Medical Center in Portland is getting crowded. 9 nurses who work in the unit are pregnant. All are due between April and July. The soon-to-be moms say it's been great to have so much support at work. The nurses say they'll continue to support one another until that baby boom is over. Finally, on Fox, they're an animal odd couple, and now they have a forever home. Kitty is a 6-year-old tabby cat, and Leela is a 2-year-old Chihuahua. They were dropped off at a Boston shelter a couple of weeks ago in the same carrier. After the staff saw how devoted the pair acted toward one another, they made special arrangements and allowed them to sleep near each other in the facility.
They love each other. They feel calm and supported when they're near each other. It's just a very special event. Their friendship is really at a whole new level.
And when the story aired locally there in Boston, they were adopted together. Now they have a happy home together.
Happy ending.
Yep.
Dogs and cats.
That's right.
Living together. No mass hysteria. Here is the temperature in Edinburgh, which is 25 degrees under starlit skies, and that's what you can expect for tonight. Cold temperatures again. Low to mid-20s along the lakeshore, teens elsewhere, and tomorrow it gets a little milder. Mostly sunny, 40s along the lakeshore, 50s inland. Jill.
Okay, thank you so much. If you missed our newscast, go to yourerie.com. We're just 2 minutes away